folks, I just wanted to jump on just real quick to send you a little video about what we got chatting about today at Pilates. Great session, and everyone's doing super, really super throughout the week. So I'm loving hearing all the stories and then seeing how you get on. So one of the things that came up was talk about alignment, and such a great topic and something to think about. I think a lot of the times we can be caught in a zone with physio where we really only go if something goes, there's a crisis, as we call it, or we're in the emergency phase of just pain and discomfort and really not getting on top of it. And when we're starting to feel better and move better, one of the things you've really got to start thinking about then is, well, how do I stand? What's my alignment really like? So we'll often say actually our posture is often very good until about 3 or 4 years of age. And then of course we start going to school, we go to nursery, go to different things, and we start to emulate what we see around us, which is slumping in a chair or twisting and turning and those kind of things. So whereas up until then we're often got great posture. If you ever look at kids, sometimes they'll run and they've got quite upright posture. So one of the things that happens very clearly and very early on in the developmental phases is that we become one side dominant, or we'll often favour one way of doing things over another. Now wind on a good few years and add on different injuries, different pain episodes, different types of activity that you do throughout your day. So even if you're doing a lot of sitting or a lot of driving, or you've done a lot of that, or a lot of heavy lifting, any of these kind of things, it all adds up. Because when you use it and use the muscles will adapt. The muscles always adapt to what you want them to do usually. So what happens is if you're doing a lot of one activity over another, the muscles will adapt to that. So you end up having different pulls of the muscle. So my fantastic Picasso drawings here, I'm going to try and attempt to draw it out a little bit for you if you're interested. So what tends to happen is, ideally what you'd want is, you'd want this midsection driving from the midsection. What I mean by that is, you won't see it from my stick man because we've got legs 11 here, but really we've got so much muscle in this midsection. And even before you reach out for a cup of tea, what's meant to happen is you're meant to, in an ideal world, even just gently switch on those deep core muscles. They're like a corset to the body as you reach out, and then you go to lift or pick up your cup of tea or do your upper fine motor skills, whatever it is you're going to do, and you use the other muscles to do those skills. But the whole time, nearly the anchor to the body to allow it to move with stability, which is what you work on loads in Pilates, that's meant to help with the control as you do your activity. Then when you come back, these guys switch off, they get the break they need because that's how they're designed. They're kind of not designed to be on all the time. And then this core just chucks away along in the background really nicely, trips away. Now say you've had, for example, an ankle problem or even a knee problem. What often can happen is, instead of having, for example, as you look through this, instead of having, I'll try and get my percentages right, 25% coming from different areas. So this changes, and we'll say 25 up here. So that's what actually happens. So, and I'm just using these figures. Ideally, what you'd want really is you'd want quite a bit coming from here to support the movement. Because if you look at the size of the muscles, biomechanically, you've got more muscle bulk up here, glutes, into lower back, into the tummy, into pecs even, the back muscles. There's so much more there compared to thigh muscles, not too bad. But as you go down the way, your muscles start to get slender, they start to get smaller. And that's so that we can actually move about. If we have the same amount of muscles on our bottom muscles as we do on our calf muscles, it gets that harder to move about. Not just harder to get a pair of jeans, but actually harder to get to move about. So once you've got an area that's had a dysfunction or a problem, you then start to see extra problems in here. So let's pick somebody who's had a lower back issue, low grade, nothing major. You'll actually find this percentage of what actually goes on in there goes down. So you might only have 5% here. So then the body has to recruit it someplace else. So you have to then sometimes start transferring it down. You might drive from the hip flexors, that might go up even to another +10, and you might actually start getting a little bit more at the calf muscle So that could be +5. So rather than actually spreading the load really nicely, what you'll end up doing is you'll end up really driving from your calf muscle, even your hip flexors, you start to lock on a bit like that, and the glute muscle doesn't actually switch on. Now, you'll get away with that for a while, but the problem we often have is a thing called the creep effect. It's a scientific thing, not just the name, but it means that little by little, it builds and builds and builds. And that's where you often get to a point where the stories of, I was literally just bending down to put on my shoes and it just went. Or I went for a short walk, nothing major, and my Achilles is killing me after that. All these things kind of build from there. So the driving points change. So what happens is when you've had an episode, a pain episode, or you're sore, we work on getting the pain down, you start feeling a bit better, you start moving more, but we haven't changed the way you're moving, or maybe the way you're sitting, or the way you're doing things. And that's really going from what we call the emergency phase right all the way in to functional phase, and into the phase then where you get to actually get the best out of your body. Because when you're, again, this poor lad's not even either, but if you can imagine he is, this isn't my forte, when you get the right amounts pulling from the right bits, so you really want quite a bit driving from the core. So as you're really pushing through on the glutes, as you're really opening up that chest, then these guys can kind of go, okay, the team is working here, you don't need me as much, and the brain learns to retrain that and really settle into it. So have a think about that, and that's why today I'll focus quite a bit on the alignment, focus a bit on how we're standing, what muscles are working. Are you a toe gripper? Some of us might even be a butt gripper. Sometimes we might even be just one butt gripper. So there's lots of things that we do. So really focusing in on that and try and think over the weekend now, what is it that the body loves to do that actually doesn't need to do? So if you're lying down in bed at night and you can feel these guys working, you've got to figure out another strategy in order to manage that, so that you can actually start to think, right, how do I switch these guys off? Stretches are fab. They're lovely, they're great to do, but sometimes you have to go to a deeper level. You got to get to the why of what's happening, of why you end up with a sore back, why you've ended up with a sore knee. And when you get to the why of it, for example, when we do a full body scan, we can see that pretty clearly actually. Then you actually get to minimize it coming back, but you start to get stronger and stronger. So if you're getting that ceiling effect where you kind of feel good, I'm getting there, but I'd like to get even stronger, and I'd like to even move more with my Pilates and get stronger with it, then that's what you need to be thinking of just now is, let's look at the body. What's happening where? What's kicking in where? And then let's start getting this next rehab program. Just 5 to 7 minutes a day is sometimes all you need really to complement what you're already doing. Because what you're doing is great, you just want to complement it so that it gets stronger, you get stronger, and you actually start minimizing the injuries. I always think, I think it was Ford, there was back in the day when they were making lots of cars, and they still make lots of cars, but back in I think it was in the 80s, and they came over from the continent to look at a factory that was producing these, and they said, well, you don't have anybody in the end section where you check if the door is actually fitting right and it's going to be okay. And they actually said, well, we design it right in the beginning, so you don't need to have somebody in that department. So that's the kind of thing that you're trying to think of with the body. If you're having to use, watch out to have a knee support, or, oh, I can't go that far when I'm walking because I don't want to take anything off, you're almost nearly putting an extra bit of a layer in your day that you don't need. Because you'll often, if you go right back to it and say, well, this is where I'm weak, this is where I can strengthen up, before it gets sore, you can make a big difference. And as physios, that's one of the things we absolutely love to do, because that's where you want to be, in the zone, rather than when life kind of comes in a bit. So have a think about that, have a think about your body, how am I sitting? You can see I slumped down there. How am I sitting and how am I moving? And do I like to stand to one side over another? Do I like to have one foot forward a little bit more than the other? When I'm watching telly, my telly at home is slightly ever off to the right, and I know I'm starting to get asymmetric, especially if I watch a film or any of those kind of things, a longer stint in the chair. Those are kind of things to start thinking of. And if you're working from home or you're doing stuff on the computer that bit more, definitely start thinking about it, because it'll be the little things you're doing every day, repetitively, the repetitions, the timing builds up over time, then that's usually the little tweaks that need to be made effective. And if you want to chat a bit more, just give us a shout. That's what we're here for. And now is the time. Use this time when you're at home, when you're actually getting 2 classes in and you're not having to be different places all the time. Use this time now to really get the best out of your body and take it up another level. Good. Well, we hope you have a great weekend, and we look forward to seeing you on Monday.